It's time. 99 episodes behind closed doors. And today, the 100th episode right here, right now, with you and open to the world. A winning culture is built in a learning culture. And this is a weekly session that's going to create a global community of business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs, and personal development junkies that all want to grow and succeed in both business and life. So what should you do now? Subscribe right now, set the alerts, get your pens and papers ready, engage, comment, share, and enjoy. For today, you're blessed with the presence of the world #1 business coach. He's the founder of the business coaching profession. He's a philanthropist. He's a business educator like no other. He's got depth of content in life success, business success, and wealth creation. You're going to be making loads of notes. You're going to have idea after idea. So use the comment box, ask questions, share your learnings, and share your action points throughout. That could even appear on screen. Now, right at the end, I'm going to ask you what you've learned. Why am I going to do that? To increase the likelihood of you doing something with it. So it's time to invite the first of many global thought leaders to your screen, the man himself, Brad Sugars. I'm aware you're on the road, Brad. Where are you calling in from today, Brad?
G'day, James. I'm up at my friend's ranch in Montana having a good long weekend with the kids.
Well, you know the subject, you're on the road, you're tuning in. We're really proud to have you deliver the first one. This is about future-proofing everybody's business in both leadership and management. I'm your assistant. I'll be behind the scenes here. I know that you've got the first part that you're going to be taking us away, Brad. Over to you.
Thank you, James. Thanks for the intro. Really glad to be here with everybody and looking forward to all of the learnings that we can get through today. Leadership and management. Let's first of all break it down. Management and leadership has had to change over the years because generationally we're different. If you think about the way you manage a baby boomer and the way you manage a millennial, the way you lead a baby boomer and the way you lead a millennial, it's two entirely different things. Now, let's first of all start with where have we been with management? What has happened over the years and how has it worked? Well, I think one of the things to realize is that somewhere along the way, management became a dirty word. Somewhere along the way, management became a bad thing. I think if you think back to the last bestsellers on management, best-selling books, so when it was a thought of, the 1 Minute Managers series and the Monkey, it was, there was a 1 minute there was a whole series of them. And I sit back and I look at that and I think, why did that disappear? What happened? Well, it got to a point where people said, we don't want to be managers. You want to be leaders. You don't want to micromanage people. You want to lead them. And then we saw a whole bunch of books come out on execution. Why? Because execution is the lack of management creates a lack of execution. So we really want to see great execution in business, then management has to be it. So let me give you my definition and where I think we are now with management. Management and leadership must coexist. Management is really the ability to create two things. So write down these two things. Management is competency and productivity. It's about competency and it's about productivity. Leadership, on the other hand, is also about two things in my books, and that is passion and focus. So let's take a look at each of those and break them down and say, hey, how do we make sure we're building competency and we're building productivity in our team members? And how do we make sure, on the other hand, we get into the leadership aspect of passion and focus? So competency and productivity, let's start right there. So most people in management fail because they are reactive managers. What we want to actually be is proactive. Proactive in the way that we create a result with people. Proactive in the way that we create competency, we create productivity. So if I sit down with the average business and talk about management and say, okay, what is it that is the problem? Now, let's remind ourselves of these two things. Write it down. Management is a system and leadership is an art form, okay? So the systemic methodology of management is a system of, and we're going to run through that system in just a moment, the system of meetings and the systems of reporting. So what are the systemic ways we meet and what are the systemic ways we report? Because remember, your job as a manager is to build competency and build productivity in people. What we're aiming to do with productivity is, of course, build more profitability. The more productive an employee, the more they get done, the more profitable a business is. The more competent they are, the less management is needed. Now, let's deal with this myth. I'm going to deal with two myths, actually, because this is, I think, where we are right now. We're living in these myths. Myth number one, you don't need to micromanage people. Not true. If they lack competency and they lack productivity, which, if someone's brand new to your company, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to get things done. If someone's brand new to your industry or brand new to a position, they need micromanagement. Like, they're a baby type thing. You don't leave the baby on its own. You feed the baby. You micromanage the baby. They're a baby employee and they need micromanagement in the beginning. Now, your goal as a manager is obviously to build it to a point they don't need much management. So you build their competency, you build their productivity, and eventually they don't need that level of management. They don't need that level of hand holding. The more competency you build. Now, how do you build competency? You build competency by training. You build competency by mentoring, by coaching, by having them work alongside you, by shadowing. You build competency in that way. Now, second myth I want to deal with, the myth of my door is always open. We're trying to build productive, competent people. If someone on your team comes to you with a question and you answer that question, then what ends up happening is that you don't build a stronger team member. You've got to make them think. So the way you should answer a question is with a question, multiple questions. In fact, if someone says, boss, should we go left or right? It's not up to you to say left or right, because if you just say left, they don't know why you chose left. They don't understand that. So instead, what we try and do, or what we do, is we actually ask them questions. Well, what do you think would be the advantages of left? What do you think would be the disadvantages of left? What do you think would be the advantages of right? What do you think would be the disadvantages of right? And making sure that they're thinking. And based on that, and you ask them more questions if you need to, based on that, you build a stronger, more competent person because they come up with the answer themselves. Now, 2 or 3 times like that, and they don't need to come to you with that question anymore. When people say to me things like, "Oh, I can't get good employees," "Oh, they always just have to come to me," no one thinks for themselves in my company. That's what bad management creates, or a lack of management creates. A manager should be proactive. A manager should not be reactive. The my door is always open philosophy is probably one of the craziest, dumbest things I ever see in business, because what happens is you end up being reactive. Okay. So what is our systemic way of making sure management works? Well, we're going to break it down into 5 stages. Okay. Stage 1 that we've got to think about in the system of management is creating a daily plan with our team members. So if you think about a great team member, they've got a really good position description. So they know what they're doing, how they're doing it, where they're doing it. They know how they're measured. And when we come to a daily plan, what we get people to do in our organizations is at the end of the day, every single day, make a list of what they've got to do tomorrow. Okay, they make that list what has to happen tomorrow. It's not complex. It's pretty simple. And we call it a frog sheet. Why do we call it a frog sheet? Because it's the whole old joke of eat that frog. What's the most important thing and how do I get the most important thing done first tomorrow? Okay, so they make the list. In our organization, we also just get them to take a photograph of it. So they grab their phone out, they take a photo of it, and they text it to their boss or WhatsApp it to their boss. Basically, it's a simple system. Now, what does that do? I started personally writing a list of what I had to do the next day because I couldn't leave work at work. I don't know if anyone's ever struggled with that, but I couldn't leave work at work. So what I would do is write a list of what I needed to do. What I found is that my productivity went up by 30, 40, 50%. I was getting a lot more done because I was writing the list the day before. Now, we also get people to handwrite the list, and I don't know why it works, but I know there's a magic that happens when people handwrite something rather than actually type it in or cut and paste it from yesterday type thing. And so that frog sheet gets filled in. Now, the other thing about the frog sheet is not only do we have their list of what they're going to do, but we also have their 6 goals. Every team member has 6 goals. There's no reason not to. Some of them are very, very number driven, and some of them every day are more ethereal. Oh, our receptionist has one. Did I smile? What percentage of the time did I smile when answering the phone or greeting a guest? And it's subjective. They get to pick it, but it reminds them every day to say, my goal is to smile 100% of the time when people come in. Now, we used to use the terms of key performance indicators, key activity indicators, key predictive indicators. We used to use those terms as the terms that we would use to describe things. We turned it into goals, and we found that our people performance goes up because they have 6 goals. They don't have 6 key measures. They have 6 goals to achieve every day. So it's about achievement rather than doing this type thing. It's about achievement rather than being measured and that. But the old management axiom of you cannot manage what you do not measure is still true today. That's why we're very granular in our goal setting, very granular, and we break it down to the smallest of things. If you've ever heard my statement on leverage, divide to multiply. If you divide it down into the smallest of things, fix the smallest of things, it multiplies into a massive result for your business. You're not going to find one silver bullet that changes the business. You're going to find multiple things that change the business over a period of time. So our first thing is daily lists. That's a daily report of these are our 6 goals and here's our numbers and here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. Now, once you get that daily list operating, then it takes a look at building the weekly list. By the way, if you're working with an action coach, let them know you'd like to pre-join the management training for some of your people. We have a full 12-week management training that'll be rolled out in 4th quarter. So if you want to pre-join that, let your action coach know. The management training program for some of your team, 12 weeks of management training is very important. Now, one of the things that daily list will do is it'll keep people focused. It'll increase their productivity immediately. So then what we want to do, step 2 of the management system that we use is creating a weekly list. So on Friday, they're going to hand in 2 lists. One is what's my thing for next week, and one is what is my thing for Monday. So I have an entire list of what they're going to do next week and an entire list of what they're going to do on Monday. Again, weekly goals is a very important thing. So weekly goals is usually a cumulative of their daily goals. Remember, management is a system. It's a systemic way of meeting with people. Now, what do the meetings look like? So this is step 3. Step 3 is the meeting called the weekly team meeting, and it happens on a Monday morning. Why on a Monday morning? Well, Friday afternoon, they all sent me their list or sent you their list, okay, or sent their boss their list of what they're doing all for next week. So Monday morning, we have a meeting. Now, what is the purpose of meetings? The purpose of management meetings is communication. You got to write that down. The purpose of management meetings is communication. We want communication to happen so people know who's doing what by when. We don't see gaps. You see, when there's a lack of communication, things fall through the gaps. When there's a lack of communication, a lack of planning, a lack of systems, there's a lack of execution. If you want execution, you've got to have great communication, great planning, great systems in the organization, and of course, great management. And management comes down to that building of the competency and productivity of the human. So what we do at that Monday meeting is we go through everybody's list. We literally go through everybody's list and we make sure everyone goes through their list. They read out their list of what they've got to achieve that week and what they've got to do that week. And it goes through. And what will happen is that there'll be, oh, Bob, you're doing that. Well, Mary, does that mean you've got this covered? And so you're with your team. Direct reports to a manager should be about 8. Less than 8 direct reports, you're probably not doing enough managing. You're doing, so to justify and warrant the value of being paid as a manager. More than 8 direct reports, you're probably doing only managing and not doing your own job of building the business or building your division or working on it, not just in it type thing. So that's usually the numbers we look at. And that then breeds us. And that meeting, when we first started doing that meeting took about 2 hours. Now it takes about 45 minutes, 55 minutes, somewhere in that vicinity. But yes, when we first started, it took a long time. Why? Because we didn't know, we were not good at it. We hadn't practiced it. We hadn't done it. The people were not great at writing their lists. And so there was a lot of conversation that needed to happen. The 4th stage of it is where we have the weekly one-to-one meeting. Now, this weekly one-to-one meeting with your team happens on a Thursday. And again, actually, in the beginning, it took me at least an hour with each of my direct reports. Nowadays, it takes about 20, 25 minutes with each of my direct reports. Some of them now it literally only needs to happen every 2 weeks. So because of the fact that we've done so much management that these people are well on track. So what we do in that meeting is, this is called the lion meeting. Okay, so yes, we have frogs and lions. We use the animals to remind us of what we're doing. In the lion meeting, we go through 4 things. Lion stands for, L is for last week, meaning the week that we're currently on. We go through their list, we go through their numbers. Okay, what is their numbers? Are they achieving their numbers? Are they achieving everything on their list? We then go through I. I stands for issues. So any issues that have come up, whether I see an issue with what's going on with them or their team, or whether they see an issue that is in the organization that they need to bring to my attention, type thing. Then we go on to O, opportunities. And it's opportunities I see for their growth, or opportunities I see for them to do better. And it's opportunities they see in the organization that they need to bring to my attention, or that they are implementing in their part of the team. N is for next week. What is the focus for next week, so that we make sure we're looking both backwards and forwards in that session. So you think about that, again, took a while in the beginning. Now it's gotten much faster. The lion meeting is a really important one. Now, here's the thing. There's 2 keys to making those meetings work. The first key is making sure you have the daily and weekly lists done. Okay, so if those things are being done, then it helps those meetings. The second thing is this statement. And it'll take a bit of work for some people to do this. The statement is, great, bring it to the meeting. Great, bring it to the meeting. If I get sent an email, great, bring that to the meeting. If someone stops me in the hallway and says, boss, I got an idea, great, bring it to the meeting. And so I get away from that reactive nature of management, and I push towards the proactive nature of management. Now, if there is something someone comes to me with that needs an urgent decision, I go back to my statement of, answer a question with a question or multiple questions to get them to think for themselves, so that ultimately they're becoming a stronger, more competent person. Remember this, a lack of competency is bad management or no management. A lack of productivity is bad management or no management. I'll give you a simple idea to prove this one out. I sit with business owners who say, they're not getting the level of productivity out of their team they think they should. And I said, well, great. I want you to do this. Sit with each of your direct reports. You write down the 10 things that you think are the 10 most important aspects of their job. Have them write down the 10 things they think are the 10 most important aspects of their job. And hey, presto, let's see if they match. Now, the chances of them matching are very low. Most of the time we find it's about 3 or 4 out of the 10 things will actually match, and the rest don't match. So, if what you think your team should be doing is divergent to what they think they should be doing, that's where we're going to have a lack of productivity, because we're not doing the things, or the team are not doing the things that you want. So the 5th and final thing of management is actually having a plan of management for each team member. Now, what's included in the plan of management? Number 1, you've got to look at their profile, their communication profile, their behavioral profiles. That's why we use profiling tools like the DISC profiling tool, the LSDI, the languaging, or the visual auditory kinesthetic tool, to tell us if that person is a style of behavior and a style of management, so we can manage them better. If I find someone's behavioral style is different to mine, I have to change my management style to them. And I think that's important. So you don't manage a team, you manage individuals within a team. That's the way that works. Second thing is, it's going to have a career path plan with that person. You want to have a career plan or a career path plan with people. Some of the people want to stay in that job for the rest of time. Like some people, that's their goal. Other people, their goal is to get promoted a lot. And so if they have more of a career path, it changes this third part and the final part to the person's plan, and that is their training plan. Every year, we believe that I studied as an accountant, and to stay as an accountant, you need to do your 40 hours a year of training. And basically, we break that down and say, okay, all of our team have to do 6 days of training a year. So every 2 months, they have to attend a course or go and do something, attend a program, so that they actually can grow as a human being. So we, at the start of the year, sit down with them and plan where they need to grow, what they need to learn about this year, how they as a person can be better at their job. Is not a complex thing. It's just something that has to be done. Remember this: grow your people, they grow your business. If you don't grow your people, how can they grow your business? If you want your business to double, you've either got to double the productivity of your existing people, or you've got to double the number of people. I prefer productivity increases, but either way, it's got to happen in order to do that. So that's our management system. If you want more of that, speak with your local action coach, have them help you with implementation of it, and ask them about the 12-week management training program that'll roll out in Q4. So then we look at leadership, okay? How does this apply to a small business of 4 people? Exactly the same, Mike, exactly the same. There's no reason all 4 people shouldn't be doing their daily list. There's no reason all 4 people shouldn't have that weekly Monday meeting, and all 4 people should still have that. You got to remember, Mike, some of my companies are very much small businesses. Some of the companies I've invested in, one of my companies, I think we have a management group of 3, and we have about, when I first invested in, I think they only had 7 people on the team. Now they have over 100, but they still run the exact same system. So it's a system of management. By the way, here's the greatest thing about it. By running that system, the people within the system are learning management. So if I'm doing my weekly list, if I'm doing the list every single day, and then when I become a manager, I already know how that system works. I know the Lion system. I'm just sitting on the other side of the fence now. So yes, definitely, Hannah Marie, I would 100%, if you're a husband and wife, you WhatsApp your list to each other, and if possible to your coach. If you have a coach that you work with, I would definitely send the list to someone else. Now, in most cases, when you're looking at, and the smaller the business, the more clarity around who does what is important. I often see it in sort of family-oriented businesses where there's a lack of clarity around who does what, and basically everyone does everything, and therefore there is a lack of progress because there's a lack of clarity around who does what. All right, so let's jump over to leadership and let's think about how we actually implement in leadership. Remember, in business today, one of the key roles of leadership is making sure people have that passion for what's going on, and the other is the key role of making sure they're focused on where we're going. So as a leader, having that vision and being clear in your communication around the goals, around the vision, around where the business is going. If I was to sit down and ask 10 people in a company, hey, what is the vision of the company? I hopefully get 10 people giving me the exact same answer. If I get 10 people in the company, I say, what is our goal for our company in the next 90 days? What is the actual goal of the organization in the next 90 days? I hope I get exactly the same answer from all the people. If I don't, then it's very difficult to achieve your goals and that sort of thing. So the first thing a leader has to do to keep people focused is be real clear on the communication of the vision. Now, I'm also assuming that as a leader, you have already done things like write out the vision, clearly enunciate the culture points or the values of the organization, created a mission statement for the organization. And if those things aren't done, it's hard again, because people say, oh, I'm finding it tough to recruit the right people. Great. What do you show them beforehand? Do you actually have a vision? Do you have a mission? I remember as a young man having to learn this lesson. My dad turned to me, I think I was 20 or 21, and I said to him, I can't get good people, Dad. And he looked me dead in the eye and he said, Brad, you get the people you deserve. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, you're an average manager running an average business. The highest caliber of employee you're going to find wants to work for you is average. So yeah, thanks, Dad, for that one. So when we're thinking about building our team and keeping our team, because it's important to, recruit good and build great. And someone once said to me, Brad, if I train my people, they leave. And I jokingly said back to them, yeah, and if you don't, they'll stay. And he said, yeah, that's what I want. I want them to stay. And I said, no, you missed the point. Your goal is to build people that can leave, they're capable of leaving, but run a company so good that they don't want to leave. So it's really important as a business person to keep that leadership focus in front of people. Now, passion for what they do comes from multiple different things. But let's go back to 4 areas where as a leader, you need to be a high performer. Number 1 is communication. You've got to over-communicate as a leader. You've got to do more videos for people. You've got to sit with people more often, especially if there's change. When there's change afoot, there needs to be more and more communication. I remember at the start of COVID, and if you've been watching me for a period of time, you'll remember I did the webinar on the 13 things you have to do to survive this pandemic. And then 6 months in, we did the 11 things you got to do to thrive through this pandemic. So, as a business person, we had to change. We had to do things differently. So when we sit back and we think about leadership, number one, communication has to be very high on the list. Okay. Number two, you've got to give people goals and place to focus on. No one can kick a goal if they can't see where the posts are. It's very important that as a leader, you keep the goal in front of your people. Always keep that goal in front of your people. Number three thing that you've got to do is congratulate. Okay. And I think that there's too many leaders that forget people need to hear from you more when they've done something right than they do when they've done something wrong. Okay. And you want the ratio to be somewhere in the vicinity of 5-1. So I have a simple reminder set on my phone every day to remind me to send 2 people a note of the good things that I've noticed them doing. And it doesn't have to be a team member of the month award. It can just be simply a text message saying, hey, saw the work you did on this job. Love it. Brilliant work. Thanks for doing such a great job. That simple text message to a team member changes their focus. It changes so much about the organization. That culture of giving feedback that's positive is a very important aspect of your leadership. And that's one of the things that helps with creating that passion for it. You see, we've moved from the generation of the baby boomers, and baby boomers watching will understand that you didn't need to explain to a baby boomer why we're doing what we're doing. You just need to give them the task and they would go out and do it. We've moved through to a generation that asks the question, why? Why are we doing this? When I wrote the book, and it was really interesting, we studied our clients that were doing exponential growth, clients that were scaling. And we wrote the book, Pulling Profits Out of a Hat, and it talks about the 5 core disciplines of how you actually get a scaling business, how you get an exponential growth business. And one of them was that of mission. And mission, it was an interesting find that unless the word love came up in a company, and by love, I meant the people would love coming to work. I know within Action Coach, my team of coaches around the world love what they do. They don't just like what they do. They love what they do. They love working with their clients. They love working with their members. If you haven't joined the Action membership program yet, make sure you do chat with your local Action Coach. The second part of the love is that the customers must love doing business with you. They must love it, not just like it, not just want to be a part of it, but love it to the point where, people sort of think, is it a tattooable thing and that sort of thing. I actually did a chat the other day with the ex-head of communication for Harley Davidson, and we talked about that, how do you build a brand where people love it so much? And this mission focus is really important in today's world. If you look at retention of team, one of the biggest things is that they feel like there's 3 things that I'll say is great for team retention. Number one, they feel like they're doing something great. They feel like they're part of something that's going somewhere. They feel like they're part of a mission-driven organization, an organization that's about more than just the money, an organization that's achieving something great in the world. The second thing is they have to feel like they have a level of contribution, meaning their ideas are heard. And that's why the lion is so important. The issues and opportunities are brought up every single week. They feel like they are part of something. Their ideas get acted upon. Things happen based on their thoughts and their thing. People who don't get contribution. And the final thing is recognition. It's not just remuneration anymore. If you want team retention, yes, you've got to pay them. And of course, with inflation doing what it's doing, across the board in most companies, you're going to have to give pay rises. There's no 2 ways about it. If they don't get a pay rise with you, they'll get a pay rise by going somewhere else. It's pretty simple that way in this day and age. And of course, to cover that, you've got to raise your prices, and that causes more inflation, which is a pain in the backside. But that's literally every time there's an inflationary event, we have to raise our prices and raise our wages. It just does. It's just what the world does. And don't fight it. Don't say, oh, I wish it wasn't so. Just, yes, that's what it is. We've got to move on. Okay. So if you haven't raised your prices in the last 3 to 6 months, you 100% need to be raising your prices and talking about that strategy with your coach. Okay. Make sure that is a part of it. But that recognition factor, now recognition you think of as award of the month. No, you build that culture of recognition by you being a leader. You build that culture of recognition by you sending out that message every day, or those couple of messages every day to people, and you start getting them do it. I know in our companies, we have a thing called the OAR, ownership, accountability, responsibility. And the OAR is passed from team member to team member at the end of the week. One team member will look for another team member to give the OAR to, and recognizing the person that contributes. It's not from management, it's from the team. And that culture of doing the right thing, that culture of acknowledging great work. I love that little book called Whale Done, which is all about how to train a killer whale. And you don't train them by smacking them around the head. You train them by giving them a fish when they do something or move in the direction of doing something great. So acknowledging and rewarding moving in the direction is very, very important. Would you go through the whole business plan, not just mission, vision, goals with everyone, or be selective with what they need to know? I'm a firm believer in making sure people understand the business plan. I don't need to go into intricate details with and again, Mike, I remember your other question was with 4 team members. With 4 team members, 100% everyone on the team should know the entire business plan. If I've got 200 team members or 2,000, as in Action's case, we've got, about 4,000 team members around the world. We don't really want to give all 4,000 of them the in-depth. I definitely, and twice a year, I do a session where I go over the 6 OKRs, or the 6 key measures of our organization, and why they're the key measures and where we're going. And I produce that and then deliver that to the entire organization. So, but yes, the more you communicate as a leader, the better off the opportunity for the team. Remember, clarity leads to power. Someone with clarity can do a great job. Someone lacking clarity will struggle to do a great job. So let's not just look at retention. Let's look at recruiting in this day and age. Recruiting used to be, and by the way, I want to define the difference between recruiting and hiring. Hiring is placing an ad and looking for someone who's out of work and hoping someone who's out of work will apply for a job with you. Hiring is no longer a great way. If we think of recruiting more as what a sporting team does, a sporting team goes out and looks for the best of the best and hires them. Now, remember this, you don't want someone who's out of work to apply for a job. You want someone who's already working for someone else. They're not looking for a job. They're not hunting for a job. They're not hoping for a new job. This person is doing a phenomenal job in the company they're in. And what they want is for you to get in front of them somehow. Now, the vast majority of great employees already have had some connection or some knowledge of the company that they are going to join and become great with. They're probably following you somehow on social media. They're probably out there somewhere. So you have to think of recruiting in this day and age as, firstly, a job of absolute clarity. When Jeff Smart wrote the book Who, he talks about the 3 areas you need clarity on for recruiting. Number 1, who is the person? Write out a full page on who it is that you're looking for. Number 2, what is their job? Write out a full page on exactly what is their job. And number 3, how will you measure them? How you know they're successful? So write out a full page on, if you succeed at this job, here's what this will happen. Here's what will happen, and here's what it'll look like when you succeed at the job with us. Now, that clarity then leads to a great recruiting position, because 2 things can happen. Either you can sit down and go, okay, that would be one of these people. You go to a headhunting firm and you tell them, and they go, oh, we're going to go and look for that exact person. And they might find 10 people in your industry or in a similar industry, and they would go and target a specific person that they will be wanting to speak with. Or on the flip side of that, it allows you to write a great advertisement for the person, or a great job position for the person that you're looking for, to be able to read it and say, yes, that's me. So the second thing you got to do is marketing. Each job has to be marketed brilliantly. And to do that, you need to set up, in most cases, a page or a web page with the job ad. Now, you can do that on some of the websites that are out there where you have job boards, or you can do it on your own company website where you actually do it and then post that out to the world. I like to do it with a big graphic that says, we're hiring again. and share that on social media. We ask all of our team members in any company to share it on their social media. We're very proactive in building networks in social media, especially on LinkedIn and on Facebook, because a lot of our potential employees are also on Facebook. So when we use Facebook and LinkedIn, we build a very high level of interaction out there. We're in groups, we create groups, we participate in groups. Our HR person, I remember learning this, Jack Welch, who was the head of GE, I got to spend a few days with him in Boston. And one of the things he said that stunned me, that now makes total sense. He said, my right-hand person at GE was my HR manager, the person who found me the great people to run the companies that we would buy. Now, when you think about that, you think, dang, that's right. If I find, and I've said this very clearly, and I say to my team all the time, if we have a lack of performance in an area, it's because we either have the wrong person in that area or we don't have a person in that area. And there are some parts of the company where I remember at the start of the year for the Action Coach business, I said to the team, listen, the way this whole community building is working around the world, we need a chief community officer. Either we need to promote someone into that role, or we need to recruit someone into that role. And I know that we've gone the recruiting route, and we've found people that they're not quite at the caliber, but we know we can hire good and build great. So if we hire good, we'll build them into great. We can put them through training programs and have them learn all the things that they need to do to be great at that job. Okay. So the marketing in recruiting is really important. The third thing to do in recruiting today is remind yourself that your job in recruiting is deselection, not selection. You want to make sure that the people coming in, you're not just picking someone, you're finding someone that wants to work with you. I don't want someone who just wants a job. I want someone who wants to work with us, wants to work for our company. And that's why we're not lazy. We do a minimum of 3 interviews. So you can't just interview once and then hire a person. We do a minimum of 3 interviews, and multiple people must be present in that. We do social interviews, we do group interviews, we do panel interviews, we do one-to-one interviews, we do on-the-job interviews, especially for a lower level position in an organization. I'll pay them to come in and work for a day or 2 and see that they can actually do the job. That's the way we do those sorts of things. So I think it's important to focus on that. And then fourthly, in recruiting today, I'm very big on hiring people who are overqualified for a position. Let me put it to you this way. Let's say I bought a company and it's doing $2 million a year, and I write a business plan to get that company to go to $100 million a year, or I want the goal to be $100 million a year. Should I hire someone to run that business that's run a $2 million a year business before, or should I hire someone who's run a $100 million business in that industry before? Because if I hire someone who's overqualified, they can help build the business. If I hire someone who's just qualified, they can help maintain the status quo of the business. And I don't really want status quo. So, I think that's really important. Really important with that sort of thing. James, I know that you needed me to leave timing for questions and answers. Let me know if you want to get into that now, or I can keep going and teaching, whichever way.
I certainly do, Brad. We're getting loads of comments, loads of questions that's coming in. So I've prepared a couple in advance, actually.
If everyone can just type in a comment for me of where you're at. I'd love to see where everybody is around the world, what cities or what countries we're getting into. That would be fantastic if we could do that for me right now.
Yeah, type in where you're at, where you're tuning in from, and where we've got Wolfie and Abby behind the screens here. So they will put that on screen. We've got a question. We've got a question for you, Brad, actually, around leadership and management. One for you personally. Mm-hmm. What's been your biggest lesson that you've had in leadership and management?
Biggest one. I think that they have to coexist. I think that you have to be good at both. You can't just be a good manager and you can't just be a good leader. Your organization can't have just good management or just good leadership. You need to have the coexistence of the two. You need productivity and you need capability, but you also need passion and focus. Without the two, imagine, I often teach people, because people say I really disdain for people saying, oh, you're a motivational speaker. And I don't like that. I'm an educator first. motivating people that are not good at their job means they just do stupid things faster. So we've got to do management to build competency and productivity, and we've got to do leadership to keep passion and focus. And just passion and focus on its own without productivity and competency leads to chaos. So we want to make sure we build both.
Is that two different people, Brad, or can someone develop themselves as a leader and a manager?
I think everyone has to develop themselves as both, and you will grow through it. You will be a manager before you get to being a leader. In any organization, as you grow up the food chain, so to speak, you will have to do management before leadership type thing. Remember, management is a day-to-day, week-to-week system. Leadership is more a month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter, year-to-year type thing. Leadership is more long-term and management is more short-term.
There's a number of people here in the UK. Remember, this was a UK initiative. It's only just going global now. So everybody here that's on the call is joining the global community. So join, do set the reminders on this. Do subscribe to this. This is happening each and every single week live. So there you go. Laura is Leicester. Where else we got? We got Worcestershire. We got Milton Keynes. We got Ringwood. We got York, Sevenoaks, Nottingham, West Yorkshire.
Good to see. Good to see. From Montana to Yorkshire. Excellent, excellent.
All right. So you did say the dumbest thing. You said a load of dumb things that were happening in management. Like leaving your door open and answering the questions for them. What's the dumbest thing in leadership?
Oh, dumbest thing in leadership. I can only pick one. Okay. Let's do two things. Number one, appointing someone to a job and then not trusting them to do it. So you give someone the position and then you don't let them do the job. It's like that, the person that suffers from superhero-itis type thing, or it's the person who's put into the role of leading the sales team on anyone to sales type thing. It's that whole aspect of it. So the superhero is the person that when something goes wrong, they dive in and fix it for their people. They dive in, let me show you how good I am at fixing it, rather than training their people to fix it and then training their people to not have that problem type thing. So I guess that's probably more management than leadership of them. I think that the lack of clarity around the goal, or just setting a goal that is pure money driven. If you set the goal of the organization, okay, our goal is to do 10 million this year. Yes, you definitely want goals like that, but there needs to be something greater than that. There needs to be a mission focus. There needs to be something greater than just money for me to come to work and want to be at work. And the other one is just hiding out, not communicating. The number of leaders over the years that I've made get out of their ivory tower. There was one guy who ran a massive construction business. I said, when was the last time you were on a job site? He said, I don't go to the job sites anymore. I was like, well, that's dumb. You need to visit at least one or two job sites every single week. They're a massive construction company, and see what's happening on the ground level of your company. Because his father had built the company, and his dad would go to a job site every day, basically on his way to work. He would drop in at a job site. And so he started doing that, and all of a sudden he started seeing the things go different, and the culture of the organization shifted. And very much, and great team retention tool, because when he would drop in, he'd drop in at what they called smoko time in Australia. And then he would drop in and bring morning break for everybody. Like he'd bring donuts and stuff, which seems crazy, but changed the culture of the organization for him.
Well, look, your first point there, the superhero-itis, not trusting people. And, we're labeling that as a pretty dumb thing to do, whether it's one of them. It's certainly up there. How common, in your opinion, is that?
Well, the ability to let go is tough for a business leader. The reason you probably started your own business is you were very good at the job of the business, or very good at some aspect of the business. But in order for the business to grow, you need to let go. You need to allow people to take over the job. Now, that's not, in most cases, I see that as abdication, not delegation. So the difference between abdication and delegation is, to delegate something properly, they have to have a system, they have to be trained, and there has to be measures on it, right? Yeah. Otherwise, it's just pure abdication. It's like, okay, you take over from me now. And when they don't do a good job at it, you have someone to blame for it type thing. But that every time, and for years, I've interviewed all of our best clients at Action Coach and how did they do it and what did they do? And there's always one answer when I asked, what was the breakthrough for you as an owner of the business? And they said, the breakthrough was I had to learn to let go. The breakthrough was my ability to allow my people to take charge and do the things they needed to do.
How do people do that then? What are there any tips that you've got for people in terms of letting go? Because you've done that with your businesses. You've got thousands of employees.
Yeah. Look, ultimately, you build people and you trust people. You build systems and you trust the systems. You do the training, do the work, and do all those things. But personally, it's about personal growth. There were aspects of the company I didn't like. Marketing is my baby. It's the thing I love in our businesses the most. I love the marketing. We just bought another company and I'm revolutionizing the marketing in that company. And it's quite phenomenal. We bought I bought a share of a marketing services company in the UK. And all of a sudden now, like, I get involved in the marketing and it's like, dang, stop it. Ask them the questions, allow them to realize and that sort of thing. But is it
like that, Brad? Is it catching yourself? Is it like just that little affirmation? 100%. Just stop it and trust them.
But it's also having a coach who points out when you're doing things like that. My coach, they say, well, what did you do with this week? And I talk about what I did with it. They're like, why are you getting involved in that stuff again? Yeah, good question.
Brad, tell us about that. Like, the world #1 business coach has got a coach.
I have 3 coaches.
Greedy. Why are you so greedy?
Well, I have one for life.
Yeah.
So Doc Sid is my life coach. He works with me on life stuff because I don't care how successful you are. You've still got stupid stuff going on in your head. I have one for business who keeps me focused on my business aspects. And we meet every month and go over all my businesses and what I'm doing and how they're doing and the performance level. And he asks me questions that, I don't even think of to ask myself, I guess. And then in wealth, I have a coach and she helps ask me questions around my wealth and goes over my balance sheets and P&Ls with me every month to make sure that our wealth is growing every month and our wealth isn't going backwards on a monthly basis. It's going forward. So, So the question here, how can leaders balance letting go with the need for management in times of challenge? Letting go is not, so management is the system, right? And if you build competency and productivity, you can let go more and more and more. When you don't build that competency and productivity, it's very difficult to let go. Now, in the times that we're in right now, where recruiting is getting more difficult, there is more need for training, more need for coaching, more need for management early on with those people. So I think that's really important aspect of it. But there is a balancing act to it. You are correct. Most of life, it's like business is really that balance between intention and attention. Where are we going and how do we need to do it? 20% of your business time should be on intention, setting the plan, getting ready to do business, and 80% of your time should be just doing the work and doing the business.
Is that 1 day a week? I mean, you do talk about that a lot. The
first half of the week. The first half of Monday should be getting ready for the week, and the last half of Friday should be getting ready. I like that, but also, whenever you need to do your own training, you just got to make sure it's about 80-20 is getting ready to do work, and 20% is doing the work. 80% is doing the work.
Yeah, beautiful. We do have another question here because this one's coming up. Employee ownership is becoming increasingly popular. More and more people are talking about it. Is it a good thing? And if it is, where do people start with employee ownership?
It's a very long-term decision.
Well,
very long-term, because if you bring employees in as owners, I personally don't like it, because in the end, what ends up happening is you have to buy them out. If the business goes for sale, they have to be bought out. I believe employees can have ownership in their heart and in their mind very clearly. I believe you can do profit share programs. You can do programs that allow them to share in the success of the company without having shareholding. The shareholding itself is a very long-term commitment. And creates, in most cases, more challenges than it does. Now, that being said, there are some businesses out there where the structure of the business needs to be a partnership model, like professional services businesses, where you want to lock that person into the company and you use it as a strategy to lock those people into the company. But again, it's a decision by that business to be that model of company. This is another reason why a lot of companies do like going public. If you move to a public shareholding, it is very much easier to give your great employees stock in the company, or options, or phantom options in the organization, to be able to lock them in and do that. So in a very small business, do not like it. The larger the business gets, obviously having some form of a program where there is a profit sharing. I personally believe profit sharing is better than actual ownership sharing.
Beautiful. I think you've really helped a lot of people on the call at the moment, because there's a bit of scarcity out there. Like, scared of people leaving. Like, I've got to keep them in, and we've got to give them a little bit, maybe too much, in terms of what you're saying there. But one powerful thing you did say, help them to take ownership in their heart and their mind. Really get them brought in. I suppose that's where your vision and your mission and that thing that's bigger than the revenue goal that you talked about comes in. Check this out. Here, we've got a pretty direct question.
Leave a business, but start a new business.
I have a great manager ready to take over. How often should I be checking?
Okay, so let's go through. So you build the management systems, you build the leadership systems, and then you've got to build ownership systems. So when you look at your ownership system right now, how often does the CEO or the GM report to the owners? How do they report to the owners? One of the challenges with small business, James, is that the owner is the CEO and the CEO is the owner, and they do a bad job at both things. If you're the owner and the CEO, you report to yourself, and therefore it doesn't work. That's why coaching is so important for small to mid-sized companies, because you've got someone that demands growth and demands results that is, over and above the CEO or the GM of the business. So when you build ownership systems, it really comes down to reporting and how they report to the owner type thing. In the beginning, I would want you to think of it as weekly. One of the things I teach when I'm coaching business owners, I say, listen, I want you to think of me coaching your business as how you will be coaching your GM later, or your MD later in life. So I work with the business owner every week. They report into me every week as coach. Well, I want my business to be doing the same thing later on in life, once a week. My CEOs, when they're first with me, we report in every week. I go over there weekly. I treat them as same as I would treat a coaching client at Action Coach. Once the CEOs have reached a certain level of performance, it moves to monthly board meetings. And we know when we're at that point, when we're ready to appoint a board, is when we know we can go to monthly rather than weekly with those people.
Look, it's 4:53 now, folks. So start putting your learning points in. Start putting your action points in. We are keen on getting them on screen as well. I do have another question for you, Brad. It's the first thing that you talked about in leadership was the importance of communication. Now, that does strike me as a skill that kind of continues to evolve, yeah? And we kind of keep improving our ability to communicate. Now, for people listening on the call here to the recording as well, and this will be recorded, and the full event, some people have joined us halfway through that asked where can we get the start. It's all going to be on YouTube, so you can go repeat. Where can someone start if they want to start improving their communication? What should be the starting point, and what advice have you got for anyone on that?
Well, first thing is establish a base point. What is your style of communication now? And that's why profiling tools are so important. You have to do LSDI is a great communication profiling tool. So we use that as a way of making sure that we know where we start from. Once you understand your style of communication, then you can start to learn the other styles of communication. Now, communication does evolve. It does change. There's different tools of it. Your communication methodology on a call like this is different to your communication methodology on an email or a text. I always start with communication lessons around what is the worst form of communication, what is the best form of communication. Well, the best form of communication is face-to-face, belly to belly, as Tommy Hopkins used to teach us when we were first learning sales back in the day. The worst form of communication is some form of an electronic communication, a text or an email, those sorts of things, because you can't communicate the essence of the communication in electronic. We have policy in all of our companies that all negatives, if there seems to be a negative, you must pick up the phone. There is no dealing with a negative on email. The worst thing you can do if there's a problem is handle it on email. People write nasty things in emails that they would never write or never say if they were face to face with someone.
So true.
But communication is a learned skill, and it changes over time. My teenage daughters pointed out to me all the time, like I learn new words from them whenever I'm, I call, they're at college, but we chat every day, and it's like, what is that word? What does that mean? It's like, but communication, you have to get better and better at it, and you have to use all of the tools as well. There are so many methodologies to communicate. Make sure you're using them all.
The easy route is send the email, send the text rather than pick up the phone and speak. It does strike me that requires both effort and courage to be able to do that properly.
Well, if I'm in sales and most salespeople hide behind social media or hide behind an email these days. Did you do any prospecting? Yeah, I sent out 60 emails. That's not prospecting. That's just lazy. That's hiding. Yeah. Prospecting is either pick up a phone or go and knock on a door. And yeah, it takes courage to do those things, but it takes less courage to do the things that work than it does to fail. Don't hide behind social media and say you're doing a good job. No, that's not true. And social media today is kind of weird because people are like, well, I got this many likes and this many interactions. I don't care how many likes you got. What I care about is how many people said, I'd like to chat with you, and that's how many people raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing.
Well, look, we're going to be sharing your learnings, your action points on screen. I am keen for Brad to see these as well. Now, before we do that, I've got an important announcement to make. Brad, you're coming to the UK directly to help educate people on marketing, which you love.
I get to come back to the UK. Yay.
It's been a while. And it's all about marketing and increasing your profits. We do have a 45-second video. We're just going to show you that now. People can't book onto it yet anyway, but they can next week. We're going to show you it now and whet your appetite with it. Then we're going to get back to your learning and you're going to find out who is coming on the Big Friday Finish next week as well. Abs or Wolfster, if you can get that video on screen, it's 45 seconds. Enjoy this. Pumps me up every time does that music. That's the first time that anyone's seen that, by the way. And look, Brad, it does really strike me that you're serious about this. You are serious about making a difference to business, and you're even bringing in someone on the tour with you on this one. So it's there's two of you.
Marcus does amazing stuff. His book is phenomenal in the way it transforms people's thinking about what is marketing and how does marketing work. And he's real results-driven marketing, which is of course, my favorite thing. So I literally just last week was finishing the edit on the book of Raise Your Hand Marketing. So, raise your hand, raise your profits. Let's get to it. And we're also doing, Marcus and I are going to do a couple of full day events, and the day events are going to go into a lot of detail. So business owners who really want to get into their marketing and get massive results can come and hang out with us for the day as well.
Yeah, and that is bring your marketing team with you as well type day. You are going to transform your marketing over the next 12 months on that day.
Yeah, so, I think that if I remember rightly, James, the team have even put together a package deal so people can bring a lot of people from their company. So
More information to be shared. It's the first time that that's actually been shared out publicly. As early as next week, people are going to be able to book onto that. But let's finish this session properly. It's the first one. You're the founder of Action Coach, so it was only right to kick this off with you, Brad. Let's get them learning points on screen. Abby, Wolfster, let's see what we've got. Leadership role, passion and focus. What's next? Keep them coming through. This is Screen Blue Murder Limited. Whoa. Grow your people and interview around 5 times. Great point, Brad. Keep them coming through. What else have we got? Face, phone, finger, priorities. Nice one, Brad. Sarah, I'll let you read that one, Brad.
Phone calls and meetings, face-to-face, a great follow-up and email to make sure everyone has agreement about what was said. It's a great lesson, Sarah. Lazy managers don't actually agree a time frame or a performance standard. Good managers agree a time frame for a job to be finished and a performance standard. Wonderful point.
And by the way, folks, why are we getting you to share these now? If you've not shared a learning, you're not doing yourself justice. Because when you share this publicly, you're going to be committed to taking action on it. And that's what this session is about. And this is why it's different. You're joining now a community of global business leaders. And this is not just about information and insights. It's about impact. It's about change. It's about doing something with it. So if you've not shared a learning point, get it in there now. You'll be fortunate enough to get your name on screen. Let's get a few more. Praise people 5 times. Actually, remembering to praise people when they do it right. Recognition, that came up behind the scenes. I've seen loads of comments on recognition earlier on. Hire overqualified people to fit the future business. That's Action Coach as well. Keep them coming through. Sarah Taylor, eat that frog. Good old Brian Tracy. Hey, Brad.
Don't read that book again. Yes. Very important.
And let's go for 2 more, Wolfster. 2 more. Let's see who we've got. Recognition is the biggest driver of human behavior. That was in there earlier on. If you're average yourself, then the best you're going to get is average. That was your slap off your dad. Thank you very much, Wolfster. And there you go. Warren has got the last one in. Just saying, we're not finished, Brad, before we're saying goodbye. Let's have a look at what's happening next week on the Big Friday Finish. In fact, Brad, I will thank you now, and I'll see you again in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you, James.
Well, let's see what's going on next week on Big Friday Finish. You've got Eddie Jones, an up-close interview with the manager of the England rugby team on lessons in leadership, decision-making, people management, high-level achievement. You even get the chance to ask Eddie your questions. Be there. There you have it, team. Remember, this is your community. It's a community of business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs, and personal development junkies that all want to grow and succeed in both business and life. So if you haven't done it already, subscribe now, set every alert that you can do, and share this with everyone that you know. See you next week, 3:59 p.m. All that happens now is go get them. Enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.